Howdy guys, Attorney Walter Hnot. Let's get right into the video. Please remember to like, please remember to subscribe and click the all button. Don't be stingy with those likes. Let's get right into it. So here's the deal. The inflation issue has created this weird, you could call it a vacuum, you could call it a projection, you could call it a forecast, but basically it's made some states horrifically expensive. As you know, some states have worse inflation than others, but then they do a national average across all the states to go ahead and give an inflation boost with the cost of living adjustment. That inflation boost, that cost of living adjustment is never really enough to get people into that better spot for that next year. They're always losing money to be able to buy more as time goes on. So what's happening now? Well, it's a pretty scary thing, unfortunately. Let me walk you through it. The states that they're reporting for the monthly amount that it costs to be able to live there on average are significantly above. They are way beyond what it would cost to go ahead and live there on supplemental security income or Social Security disability insurance benefits, which means only disabled people, for the most part, who have VA disability benefits and SSA disability benefits would even be able to live in these places for the most part without some sort of subsidized housing or special program where they're in some sort of rent is paid or rent assistance or it's a buddy, you get, somebody helping you out, etc. Here are the 10 states that basically are exporting, being disabled people have to leave them to go to another state because of these governor rules that are being created that are pushing for more and more and more inflation, which is making it more and more expensive to live in that state, raising the bar when it comes to being able to afford things in the future, which means that the disabled can't live in that state. They have to move to another state. The number one state when it comes to this is Hawaii. Now, this is directly from Business Insider 2023. Hawaii's monthly bill expenses per household is around $3,070. Now, as you know, in Hawaii, they have a large amount of native individuals who were born there. Their genetics have been there for a very, very, very long time, and many of them live in SSI poverty. But many of them are having to find alternative states to move to, fly away from their home country to be able to afford the basics such as food. This is because, and you will see throughout many of these, there is let's just say a particular political party that is creating very, very, very expensive states to live in, which means that those who are very low income can't afford to actually live there. So if the monthly bill expenses per household on average are around $3,070, right? Then what we're looking at for somebody who lives in Hawaii who is on SSDI benefits, the national or the average for SSI or for SSDI benefits for Hawaii is $1,399.88. Again, $1,399.88. The point being is that Hawaiian on disability benefits would never be able to afford it to live there. Now, some of these states offer state-specific supplements for SSI. We're not going to go into each one of those, but the point is, if it's $914 for SSI benefits, obviously the person has to have subsidized housing, has to have some sort of extra funds coming in to be able to go ahead and live there, which means that you get into the whole, do they report those funds? If they don't, is a CDI investigator going to come after them, etc. So Hawaii is really the worst on this list. Hawaii, I'll just give you a quick update on basically who the governor is. Hawaii, Josh Green, Democratic Party. Bottom line is that state has now pretty much become completely unaffordable as a result of all this inflation for SSDI and SSI disabled individuals to be able to live there. Now, the number 2 on this list is obviously California. Everybody knew this. Everybody knows it. California monthly bill expenses per household are around $2,838. Okay, so that's obviously a massive, massive amount. Let's go ahead and take a look at California real quick. California obviously has Gavin Newsom, very famous, Democratic governor. Basically, when it comes to essentially what an individual in California would be, they have around $1,395.93 of SSDI benefits on average. Again, $1,395.93, which is significantly below $2,838. So they better be married to somebody who's making some real money. Now, with that said, the SSI people are even more so incapable, because if they are married to somebody who's making a lot of money, then they get kicked off of benefits, because an SSI person who's married to somebody who's making over $33,000, $35,000, somewhere around that area, depending on their situation, will be kicked off of benefits, because the moment their spouse goes over it, the deeming element occurs, and then all of a sudden they lose their SSI benefits. So bottom line is California is becoming almost impossible unless you have heavily subsidized housing or some sort of buddy that's just allowing you to live there for a couple $100 sort of gig to be able to live in that state. And it's a massive state. So there's a lot of like wiggle room there for people to be able to find some little backyard, some little place off the map. But the bottom line is California is massively exporting disabled to other states because those disabled who are there are not able to live there and are being exported through the political channels of raising that cost of living through basically changes in how they go ahead and allow companies to interact with the general population. And you will notice that there is a consistent tendency with these states of a cost of living. And I'll just say it. I'll just say what everybody's wondering. Why is it that some of the really backyardy kind of states, the Mississippis, the Alabama, stuff like that, why are they always red, right? We're not going into that, but why are some of the more ritzy states, the big city states, stuff like that, tending to be essentially blue? Well, blue states tend to have really great medical treatment options, top hospitals, top doctors, all that stuff. The red states, the backyardy states, anyways, don't. I mean, Texas and Florida do, but remember, they're kind of unique. So the point here is these states, the blue chippers, are now becoming just so exponentially expensive that those disabled people who are in them are having to be forced into some sort of program or move out of the state. And it's an interesting thing because at the very end of the day, this is a very financially interesting way that the governors of these states can go ahead and basically kick the disabled out of them to go ahead and have more people paying taxes as opposed to more people on the dole. Because some of these states, like the next one, they get an additional amount onto their SSI benefits, which you're not going to be seeing so much for SSDI benefits. All right, let's go into the next one, number 3. Number 3 is New Jersey. It's the third most expensive state by cost of living. Monthly bills, $2,727. Obviously, if you're on SSI, $914 per month is not going to be able to handle that. Now, if we go over here to New Jersey, current governor is, here we go, let me get it up, is Phil Murphy. Phil Murphy, basically, let's go over to the amount of SSDI benefits. New Jersey is $1,505.33. Now, New Jersey is known for paying people more. It's a lot of the insurance companies there. They basically have more SSDI benefits, totaling $1,505.33 as an average. As a result of that, what you have to keep in mind is that at the end of the day, still $1,500 is not going to be enough to live in a state that costs $2,727 for the average, per household cost to be able to live there, because somebody else is probably having to live with them to go ahead and make anything like this happen. So especially solo individuals, solo disabled people are just not going to be able to live in that state effectively. Let's shoot down to Massachusetts. Okay, let's go over this. Monthly bill cost for Massachusetts is $2,656. Obviously, being on SSI, it's never going to work out. You have to go ahead and get out of the state, which is just an unfortunate thing. Governor of Massachusetts is, and I'll pull it up right now, is Maura Healey. Another Democrat-based state. Let's go over to what the average SSDI amount is for Massachusetts. It is $1,366.75, kind of a middle ground amount. Again, $1,366.75. That state, again, way too expensive for SSI people, way too expensive for SSDI people. Let's go to the next state, Maryland. Okay, basically, Maryland comes in. It is the fifth most expensive state to live in. Monthly bill expenses per household is $2,569. Obviously, $914 for the SSI individuals never going to work. Let's look at Maryland, specifically when it comes to the governor. Let's see what we got here. The gentleman is Wes Moore, Democrat Party again. Let's pop over to here. Maryland is $1,413.31, a little bit higher than the average when it comes to SSDI benefits per month. So what you have to know is this. Obviously, when you go back to the basic math of looking at $2,569 per month, as a comparative note to somebody with SSDI benefits only getting $1,413 per month, we know very quickly that those who are disabled in that state would be exported or have to move or have to live in some other state that is cheaper. Okay. Number 6, Connecticut. The monthly bill expenses are $2,504. Let's take a look at who is the governor. That is a Ned Lamont. Again, Ned Lamont, specifically for the SSDI amount. Let's go ahead and take a look at this real quick and see what it comes down to. The SSDI amount for Connecticut is $1,416.96, very similar to the same amount as the prior state that we just went over, being Maryland, a little bit higher than the average, but bottom line is $1,416.96. Now, that is not a capable amount of money to go ahead and live at a state where the monthly household expenses are $2,504, especially, of course, if it's a solo individual. Let's go to number 7, which I thought would be way higher. I thought it would be way higher. New York monthly bill expenses per household is $2,495, which is, obviously high, but I thought it would be way higher. I thought it was going to be Hawaii, California, New York, or Hawaii, New York, California, but it wasn't. Governor is Kathy Hochul. I'm not sure. I rarely look up the governor of New York. Bottom line is, for New York, the average SSDI amount is $1,407.15. So kind of like close to your average kind of area. SSI amount, $914, but obviously they have increases with state supplementals. And then, of course, New York, $1,407.15 is never going to allow a lone disabled person without having subsidized housing to be able to live there unless they've got a friend or some governmental county or state-based entity providing money to them. Let's keep scrolling down. Washington, all the way to the other side of America, monthly bill expenses per household are $2,468. Again, $2,468. When it comes to Washington, you have another Democrat, Jay Inslee. Again, Jay Inslee. Let's go over here and find out where Washington is specifically on how much people get. It's around the average, $1,371.51. Again, $1,371.51. The bottom line when it comes to this is that Washington, obviously, as a comparison note, is far too expensive for solo disabled individuals. It just ain't going to happen. People are going to have to move out of there. They're going to have to change the position unless they have subsidized or somebody going forward. Let's pop over to the next state real quick and let's check it out. Colorado. Colorado has been getting very out of control. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at Colorado real quick. Colorado has Democratic governor, Jared Polis. Okay, let's take a look at Jared Polis real quick. And Colorado's average SSDI amount is $1,374.74, which is about average territory, $1,374.74. So somebody making $914 or somebody making $1,374 is not going to, as a solo person, likely be able to afford most of the costs in a average monthly household $2,413 state. Okay. Now, all these states up to this point have been Democrat-based states. The medical treatment at these locations tends to be significantly better than a lot of the red states. However, in these blue chip, we call them blue chip states because they're classic, blue orient states. Classic Democrat states are Hawaii, California, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Maryland, stuff like that. These states that are promoting and heavily pushing Democrat-oriented ideas, Democrat-oriented, theories, they become very, very expensive, extremely expensive, which then forces a lot of disabled to have to be exported or move out of that state. About once per week, we get somebody who basically calls in and tells me about where they're having to travel to as a result of the cost. California is very high with that. A lot of the Hawaiian individuals have a tough time getting a ticket to be able to afford it to get out, whereas a lot of the individuals in California they'll get some sort of car and they'll go ahead and drive out of the state. Okay, let's get into the next thing here real quick. Alaska is our only state that likely rolls into the red category, which is the Republican category. Total of $2,335. Again, $2,335 for the monthly bill expenses per household. Let's go ahead and take a look at specifically Alaska's governor. Alaska has the governor of Mike Dunleavy. Again, Mike Dunleavy, who is a Republican. Okay, let's take a look at Alaska real quick. $1,348.58, kind of on the lower side of the average earning. Again, $1,348.58 for an SSDI or Social Security Disability Insurance individual. So that means that group that's under $1,400 for SSDI benefits or only $914 for SSI benefits is very unlikely to live there. And remember, in some of these places, the cost of living when it comes to heat or AC is extremely high. And as a result of that, it's just one of those tough situations where people can't get good footing when it comes to affording utilities, housing, etc. when it comes to these places. Now, to be fair, and I want to put this out there, some of these states right? Some of these states are going to be very expensive to live in because they're just like out in, the distance of America, right? Hawaii is an island in the middle of, the Pacific Ocean. It's way out there. It's going to be way more expensive to go ahead and essentially live there. It just is what it is. So Hawaii is the top of all the blue Democrat-based states. However, if you look at Alaska, Alaska is the most expensive of all the Republican states. Why? Because it's all the way up there, obviously, like, on the little teapot thing, it's the little curved handle for Canada. But the point is this: these are the most expensive states to live in. The top two for each party are part of the list. But we have to understand, we have to agree that the Democrat based policies tend to be more and more expensive for those individuals who are on or seeking disability benefits, which is a tough thing to say because it's an ironic thing as well. If these blue states have so much better medical treatment, so many amazing doctors, so many new innovative trials and things like that, then we're basically forcing the disabled, we're exporting the disabled away from this medical treatment to cheaper states. And consider this: if you go ahead and say, hey, the disabled, they should be getting access to these really high-end, beautiful and amazing medical treatment options, right? But then you say at the same time, well, this state is becoming too expensive for them to live in. You are de facto exporting them out of the state because they can't access the medical treatment that they really, really need. And remember, Medicaid, the SSI, individuals get, a lot of those doctors don't want to go ahead and touch that because it's just, they don't get paid enough per treatment. And then Medicare doesn't, cover all the things unless people are buying into many of the other things that they need to for these higher end specialized medical treatments options. So it's frustrating because at the end of the day, you basically have the best medicine in the states that the disabled can't access. And so as a result of that, if you look at what's happening to the disabled community, a lot of disabled are moving to the cheapest of the cheapest states. Your classic like backwater, this is in the, boonies kind of states. And what's sad about it is those states have the absolute worst medical. So, and let's just say what it is. The Republican red states, the backwater states, tend to have the worst medical treatment options available to them. So you have the disabled getting pushed out of blue states into red states where the medical treatment is not as good. And let's just be fair here. When it comes to those who are working and paying for insurance or part of a corporation that has, health insurance provided to them, let's just be honest here. Those are the type of medical, patients that doctors actually want to have as an option, right? That want to work with, because they know that a company's insurance is going to pay for a lot of the medical treatment for not only that particular employee, but their family members as well. So they want those patients. But then when you get to essentially the SSI people, the SSDI people, not so much. A lot of negotiating, a lot of the Medicaid doesn't want to pay that much. And so what you end up with is these unfortunate Social Security recipients for disability benefits, whether it's SSI or SSDI, getting screwed over when it comes to accessing better medical treatment into the future. And this whole COVID thing didn't help. I'm not saying the Democrats are really like to blame here. And what I'm saying is this: Democrats make states that are more expensive to live in. When you have COVID create mass inflation, the problem ultimately, shows its head as this big giant dragon a lot faster. You're seeing a lot more of these disabled individuals have to get out of these states as a result of this inflation. Look, here's where I think everything is going. We need to have some sort of federal law that protects housing for SSI individuals. Okay, we need to have literally federal housing protecting these SSI individuals. And remember what SSI is all about, and SSDI as well. SSI is the program of last resort. The whole point is, look, if you are essentially a disabled person who hasn't worked that much, if you are somebody who's over 65 that's not able to access retirement benefits, or basically the retirement benefits are super, super low. If you are an individual who's an asylum seeker, a refugee, an immigrant, etc., and you pass through the program requirements, you can go on to SSI. It is the program of last resort. It is the program that keeps you alive when nothing else is available to you. So the point of this whole thing is we have all of these blue states exporting, and I mean, it's technically a lot of people because California, the U-Hauls are leaving, but they're not coming back. But they're exporting these disabled individuals because it's too expensive to live there, which creates this vacuum over to the red states. Now, think about this. What's interesting about that is, from a voting perspective, those blue chip states that have blue voters will then be moved to red states, who will basically mostly, SSI people tend to vote blue, right? Democrat. And SSDI people tend to vote a combination of Democrat and Republican, but they tend to go more Republican. So as a result of that, what you see is the blue states are exporting a bunch of their Democrats to these red states that are traditional, straight, red state, red state, red state. So from a political standpoint, the Democrats are basically exporting an entire group of people that are really not, for the most part, going to be heavy Republicans. They're going to be mostly Democrat, because when it comes to Social Security benefits, Democrats promise a lot when it comes to Social Security, increasing and making a better retirement program, making better disability benefit options, etc. Whereas the Republicans always come out with these rules of like, we're going to have to make you work longer. You're not going to get as much per month. You're not going to live as long, with benefit, unpopular themes. So what's happening is there's this structural political changeover where the blue states are exporting a lot of their blue voters into the classic backwater, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana type Republican states. And what's just incredible about it is that we don't know what's going to happen. We assume that those, backwater kind of like Republican states are going to go ahead and at some point transition over to becoming Democrat-oriented states, because most Social Security recipients, not so much retirement, not so much SSDI, but most heavy SSDIers, they watch the news. The news is 24/7. Push. Democrats are pro SSA benefits. Democrats. That's what they push. And then the Republicans, bad, right, when it comes to Social Security benefits. The point is, at the end of the day, what's really interesting about it is that we will be seeing this whole thing play out in this election. Because think about it. You had all those people from California, from Hawaii, from here. I'll give you the walk through again. Hawaii, California, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Maryland, Connecticut, New York, Washington, and Colorado, all moving to cheap Republican states. So you're going to see some really weird voting changes that are going to be happening in the 2024 election cycle for the 2025 seat for the Oval Office. It's going to be interesting. I have no idea what's going to happen. I just know it'll probably go in this particular direction. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I tried to do right before this video a short video, and I think I screwed it up. I didn't go in the short category, whatever, but whatever, no biggie. I've got to wake up early tomorrow and basically get to work. It will be Monday morning, tons of calls. Please don't be stingy with your likes. We've got 189 people in the room right now, and only 76 people gave a like. Please like this video. Please go ahead and subscribe. Click the all button. If you need a disability attorney, you know who to call. Give me a call, and we'll go from there. I'll catch you a little bit later. Have a wonderful day. Sleep well. And remember, we want states that are cheap to live in. If we got expensive states, the disabled have to move. That's a bad deal. We don't want that. We want safe places for the disabled. That means cheap gas, cheap food, cheap utilities, cheap cars, and basically, hopefully some fun stuff for them. Why can't we have cruise ships for the disabled that have a lot more cheap options? Why can't we have, cool parks that have all these extra options for the disabled that are cheap? Why can't we have more of that? Why can't we have more vacations set up for them? It's just quality of living thing. Let's take care of these Americans. Let's focus on the disabled. If we treat the disabled better, we will treat all Americans based off of that knowledge better. I'll catch you later. You have a wonderful night, and we'll go from there. Thanks so much, everybody. All right, good night. Bye-bye.